All right, guys, welcome back here. If you're tuning in on YouTube, Facebook, we appreciate it. Sitting down with another student interview. Today, we're talking with Christian. Actually, it goes this way.
Okay.
Um, and we're going to be talking about his journey from joining MLT, how he found MLT, and then what he's currently doing now to help his discipline and some little tips and tricks on trying to grow a smaller account while having his main account still there, applying those principles of levels and discipline and patience and all of those things. Um, and probably some heartbreaks along the way, I would assume. A couple of those are potentially in store. So let's tune in and introduce yourself, Mr. Christian.
Hey, my name is Christian. So I found MLT in like 2018. So after I left high school, so it was one of those days I was just on Instagram, just scrolling, and I seen somebody named MLT, and I'm just looking at it. I'm like, who is this? And then I clicked it, and it said 17K on his story. I'm like, 17K? What does he do? And it was just like, and I started inboxing you. It took like 3, 4 days, of course. But when you finally responded back, that really like helped a lot because it was just like I wanted to pick your mind and see like what did you do. And I found out you did options, you did stocks also, like shares. So that was really beneficial. So you opened my mindset to a different level because I never knew about that. I was never taught that in high school or anything else.
Nice. So you, up until then, like you had like
No idea
never,
what it was.
you didn't have a Robinhood account.
No. Yeah.
Do you now?
I did, and then I just I just stopped. Just stopped.
Like it's kind of it's a default, right? Like you have to have a Robinhood account at some point in your
Yeah.
career, I feel like.
Yeah.
All right, so fresh out of high school, you're now currently you don't have much longer, right, in terms of college. This
No, I
is
haven't.
2018, so we're 2023 now. So what are you currently studying? Like where are you at now?
So I'm currently studying economics. So I started off with a criminal justice degree. So the criminal justice degree was something I wanted, right? So I wanted to be like an FBI agent growing up. So
Okay.
and I just got into college, and it was just like, no, that's not what you want to do. After I met you, it kind of changed. Like it was just like, okay, all right. So I want to study something that could introduce me more into stocks. And it was just like, okay, what can you study? Um, so when I was doing the criminal justice degree, it was mostly because of my mom, because she was like, okay, get a stable setting so like it could help you pay in the long run. You feel me? And it was just like for me, that was not what I was interested in at the time. So then it was just like she wanted me to go to this certain school, John Jay. And then I was just like, okay, if I'm not taking criminal justice no more, I decided to take economics. So that really helped a lot. And like having more conversations with you helped a lot also about that.
Okay. Any so I obviously don't know all that much about that side, like the college side of things. Like it was never, I never had that experience. But like from the economics of what you have learned, has any of it been beneficial in the trading world? Like I'm just like a genuine, honest question. Like,
Nah, 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 not at all.
so, so
So,
none of it mattered. Is that the what I'm hearing?
so none of it mattered because like the school where I went to is mostly on political economics. So they were
Okay.
talking about like government wise and stuff like that. So right now I'm taking like next semester, I'm taking a class in money and banking. Hopefully, we never know. Hopefully it actually teaches you something.
Money banking.
You said what?
You said money banking.
Yeah, money and banking. So I
Interesting.
think it's probably gonna be about investment banking more. So I have no idea yet. But it did say like before you pick the classes, it gives you an introduction what the class is gonna be on. And I picked it because I seen, stock options. So I was just like, okay,
Interesting.
okay, let's see what this is about.
Interesting. So you'll be teaching the class
Hopefully.
from like week two. That'd be awesome. All right. So none of that mattered. Well, that's fair enough. But so let's talk about let's talk about the growth on this small account, right? So you kicked it off in January at 500 bucks,
Yeah,
and you're currently sitting where?
at 11,000.
At 11,000. So almost 6 months. Nice.
Yo, oh my god, oh my god, the struggle was real. It was real.
Well, let's talk about that first.
Okay.
Let's what was the biggest what was the biggest mental hurdle along the way? What were some of those, the back-to-back days like we had talked about before? Um, like what are some of those hurdles? Like walk through some of those, the mental aspect, what you did to recover from them. Um, you know, all those.
So for me, it was mostly about staying disciplined and patient, and it was also about like, what are you mostly interested in a setup? So it took me a while to figure that part out because, like, I know you get this question a lot. It's just like, "Hey, Eric, what's your favorite setup? Like, what are you looking? What is a plus?" So it was just like I was one of those person asking you that, and then like when you finally told me, it started clicking even more and more and more. I also watched Jake video to see like what was his setup like, and it was mostly like the same thing every time. So it's basically like over a level with a retest, and then back above opening print, and that setup worked clean, and it was so clean because it was just like, okay, we have the failure to go lower. Then we went back above the opening print. And after that, it was just like, where's the next level at? So that setup helped a lot. But I think the most like difficult part of it for me was those 2 weeks. So after that winning trade on AMD off that setup, it was just basically like I had 2 weeks of straight back to back to back to back to back. And it was just like it was off the stock I came to love now. It was Netflix. Netflix 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 did a number on me. So at that time, I think around that time the account was at around 4,000, and Netflix just said, "Nah, we're going right back down for you real quick." So at that time, I was basically at school, and then class was over, and I like placed the trade. So you called this trade out too. It worked perfectly, but I forgot to trim some off. I got into the elevator, and then like I lost signal on my phone because I still don't know how to use Active Trader. So I have a mental stop in my mind every time. And then when I
Okay.
went to that elevator, connection went off. So then I'm thinking like, okay, let this refresh. Come on, let's refresh, let's refresh. Then when I like got off the elevator and I actually got some signal, and my account was down like around I'll say 600-700 on the Netflix trade. And then it was just like, okay, next day, let's make this back. Let's make this back. Let's make this back. And it's just like I took Tesla, smacked. So it was just like it wasn't working. So I think I end up texting you. I was like, yo, what would you do if you just keep taking back to back to back L's? It's been 2 weeks now, Darren. Just like, yo, just get away from the chart, close it, take a week off, and just come back with a fresh mindset. And that's what I did.
Nice. So that next week you just completely chilled, just check quotes and
Yeah.
just relax.
And so I went back to my journal, like find out what worked perfectly. So I like inside bars, failure to go lowers, buy setups on the weekly, buy setups on the daily, of course, but it has to be like over a level or under a level, depending on the market condition.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, so the Verges for me, so like we took a trade. I think it was on video. It was in video. It was a divergence. I'm thinking. But we took it off a level. It was the level was like around 397.23, so 33s.
You
And
talking
I
about last week?
yeah, last week.
Oh yeah, 397.78.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so we took that, and this was like basically my first time taking a trade below opening print in a while because like I learned to stop doing that because like most of my L's like come from there. So it was just like, all right, Eric called it out. So we gonna take this. You feel me?
So you know why though, right?
Yeah, I know why, because there was a level there. I think there was a divergence there also. And
Yeah, but we had already tested opening print twice. So
oh,
when we opened and we pulled back into that level, we retested opening print twice, and then just had a failure to go lower with that divergence from the level. So my thinking was like, I can get in this now and we'll get through opening print this time.
I
You know
got
what I
you.
mean? So
Yeah,
even though we were under opening print, which is typically it's not the norm, right? There's outlier cases like this where it's already tested twice, only so many knocks before it's going to break and we get the move higher. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So yeah, that was fun.
It was, so I also got in also. So like after that initial entry, I also got in on the 15-minute buy also. So it was
Okay.
to go lower. So I also added to my position. We were still below opening print at the time. I still took it. I was like, yeah, let's just trim some in.
Nice. So Nvidia, Netflix. Um, what else did you? I think AMD, Square. Some of those were like
Yeah,
coming
so
up
like
through like getting. Talk me through like 500 to 4,000. Give me that first time you got through there.
so at that time it was just basically like the same names for me, but at the same time I was trying to figure out like which setups I like. So for me it was basically the AMD shop, Square, sometimes Microsoft, but it was just way out the money. And it took like time to actually like move for me. But like when it did actually start to move, it moved. So I was trading like around two cons. And like basically for that, it was just basically a mental stop for me. Because I said again, I didn't know how to be active trader, and I still don't right now. So it was basically like a mental stop for me, and it was just basically like, okay, like 1% of your account is basically around like $5, $10, right, or so.
Mhm.
So for me, it was just basically like, okay, but you're gonna get stopped if you're like like risking $5.
Yeah,
So
it's a nickel.
yeah, so let's just step it up. So I stepped it up to at least like around 10%. So it was like $50. Um the part where we did not want to cross was 20% of that account.
Okay.
So we were risking, I'll say about like 100 cons were like at least for two cons was like at least 150, sometimes 160. But we were not willing to lose all of that. So
Okay.
like
I got
that
you.
mental loss for me was like, okay, all right, you get to like 25, that's a warning. You get to 50, get out.
Okay. I got you. So you're using roughly like 150, 170 bucks worth of buying power out of the overall account, but definitely not letting it go to zero.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, you don't like that. We don't like that. We don't like that. We don't-
As a no no.
no, no.
Okay, fair enough. So it took you up until about March or so.
Yeah. March, late March, early April. And then
Okay.
April we just got the smackdown of our lifetime. It was just
Now, after that week, when you took off and you came back, right? From there, better trades, worse trades,
I
same
was
struggles.
so it was mostly better trades, but at the same time was struggling with patience, of course. So at that point it was just like, okay, after that week, it was just basically, okay, you know what setups you like. Now let's try to actually like build on those. And then like I talked to Prodigy also. Like this dude just kept like, so we got on the call one night, and dude was just like we was reviewing like high highs, higher lows, lower lows, lower highs.
Mhm.
It just kept like knocking it in my head. Like he was just like, okay, if the market is in an uptrend, why are you taking like shorts in a downtrend of this? I was like, I don't know why. So he kept yelling at me off that, but it helped. It helped. And like, so like when I went back to the videos, I watched every like mentorship so far. I watched all their levels videos, and I watched like one thing. My focus was like trying to like get the little things right, because that's what's more important. And the little things for me was like discipline, patience, and like actually understand what is a buy and sell setup. So that was one of the things I was struggling at with the most. So that's what I focused on the most.
Okay. And did you change time frames?
Uh, yeah.
That
So I went from the 2 minute because
was a loaded question, wasn't it?
yeah, I went from the 2 minute to the 5 minute. So like the 2 minute, I realized like I can't catch everything on the 2 minute, and like Prodigy like kept saying this in my head, and then I texted you about it, and you was just like, add the numbers up. Let's see like how much losses and how much winners you have on that time frame, and then like separate it from different time frames. So I actually got rid of the 2 minute and started focusing more on the 5 and 15 minute. So
Okay.
that helped a lot. That helped a lot. So it
So
was
did you
just like so it was just like for the 2 minute, it was just a lot of fake outs for me. But at the same time, it was just like learning how to catch those back above opening print or back below opening print with the 5 minute. So that was kind of a struggle. But like when it started to click, it started to click.
okay. Nice. So when you added it up, like when you actually sat down, it was it was a net loss for you?
It was horrible. So like I had like more losses on the 2 minute, and it was like okay, like you had like a couple winners. So like my winners on the 2 minute was like $250. Like my losses was like around like say 500 when I added up from late January to like March. So that was the
Okay.
time when I had to switch that time frame out of here.
Okay. Very nice. So then from there we take it 4 grand roughly back up into 11 now over the last essentially what 2.5 months or so.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest single day FOMO and prevention from that? Like what was a trade that you either had on, wanted to have on, completely missed? Because over the last 2 months, like we've had some really nice trades, right? There had to have been a FOMO day in there somewhere.
It did.
So what was it? What happened? How did you keep yourself from sliding off the rails, or did you?
Oh, so it was in snow. It was multiple. It was snow, Netflix. There was one in Nvidia off earnings. Oh my, oh the biggest FOMO. The big so those plays, it was just like for me, it was just like, yes, we did tag a level, but off the 5 minute, it was just like there was no entry for me to even get in. But off the 2 minute, if you look back at it, there was an entry there, but not on the 5 minute. So like usually like we pull back to a level, right? I want the 5 minute to at least either tag one time or two times. So
Mhm.
at least pull back, like tag, and after that it just rallies with a buy setup. But
Okay.
I didn't get that. I just got a little single bar pullback. And it just rallied. And I was just like, wow, amazing. This is crazy.
It was
Just
gone, huh?
yeah. So I just like for me, it was just like at that point, it was just like close the charts. Like stop watching this. This is you're gonna get mad if you keep watching this. Um, so Nvidia, I missed completely, but my dad caught it. But he caught it with shares because I told him like, okay, Nvidia just did a 4-1 stock split. I think you should get some like just go all out. So to this day, he still has it. He's still holding strong. So he
Nice.
caught a move, and I'm just like, it's crazy. He's making money. I'm not.
that thing's been I think it's been a crazy performer this year so far. I mean,
Yeah.
we're 6 months into the year and it's gone from what, like 150 to almost 420, basically 430 this past week.
Yeah.
Like that's a big mover.
It's insane. It's
That's a
insane.
big mover. You think we're done? Like you think bull market's back?
So like you and Prodigy and Liberty said, I think we have to play defense, and Abe said that too. We have to play defense, and it's just like, okay, when do we get this pullback, and like how far of a pullback are we going to get for us to actually say, okay, we're gonna continue this uptrend. So it's all about like how far the pullback is gonna be. So for us to say, okay, we have this uptrend market now. Let's see how far we could go with this.
Yeah, I mean we're definitely a bit extended kind of across the board. Like we could certainly use it, but if we do still continue higher, I mean, we don't fight it, right?
Nah, we don't fight the
We
trends.
can't fight it.
Can't fight the trend. Just
it
gotta be cautious.
would
Cautious.
it would be hard to expect that it does continue at the same rate in which it is as to the aggressiveness that it's had lately. Um, but I do think that we'll see a little bit more kind of like pairs trades coming off the Nasdaq Russell here soon.
Yeah.
They started working like this past month, which I don't know if you ever remember those, like back in 2020, those were great. Like we'd get 2 or 3 days kind of out of parity, out of norm between S&Ps and Nasdaq and Russell, and we'd be able to buy one, sell the other. But for this whole year, up until like the past few weeks, it hasn't worked.
Yeah. It's been crazy.
It just hasn't worked at all. And then just like 2 weeks ago, I think it worked for 6% over 2 days.
Yeah.
Like there was a big kind of shift in that. So I think if we see that again, it would be really, really nice for overall markets, and essentially kind of either springboard us or take us lower from similar action to what we've seen like the past 2 weeks from that specific event. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that, to be honest. And earnings season, your beloved Netflix and Alcoa
Yeah.
kick it off the same day this year.
Yeah.
Or this quarter, this year.
Definitely.
Same thing. So, okay. Let's actually I've never done this before. What questions do you have for me?
So I have a tons of questions for you. So it's just like I think one of the questions for you is just like when do you know it's time like to be a full-time trader? Like when do you actually know?
So I think that goes into a little bit of the piece on we were talking about earlier with withdrawals. So like up until this point, like you haven't made a withdrawal on that account, right? Which is it's a different mindset, right? Is your account's at 15, you take it to 12.5, for example, right? Well, now mentally, like you want to get back to 15, right?
Yeah.
But it's a little different in the sense of it's not the same trigger as it was when you lost from 15 to 12.5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different of an emotional response to that, from paying yourself to taking a loss. Now, at a certain point, like you'll reach this level where like once you do start making withdrawals, you'll end up taking a loss. Like let's say you're up on the week and you end up taking a loss. You're up 10, 12, 15 grand on the week, and you go, numbers are relative, could be 1,000, 1,200, 1,500, doesn't make a difference. And you take a sizable percentage of that. Maybe you take like a 30, 40% loss on the week of those profits, right? That one mentally hits you a little bit different than all of them, because it could have been like, I could have just taken my withdrawal on Wednesday at my, 10, 12, 15 grand, left a little bit of cushion in there for the rest of the week, right?
That's my grandma. That's my grandma.
Hello. Can she hear me?
No, she can't.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Go give her a follow on Instagram. I'll put her
I got,
contact below.
got you. I got you.
But no, so it's a different mental response each time that you experience each one of those different scenarios. The hardest one personally, I think, is the last one, which is like, okay, I'm up 10, 12, 15 grand in a week. Like, again, numbers relative doesn't make a difference, right? But I don't take that and then I go, okay, I got a little bit of house money here. Let me try and press something. And essentially, all that's doing is I got some play money. Let me find a trade to try and make some more play money.
Yeah.
Right. So I've now gone from doing the thing in which I was supposed to do, which is find the setups or identify the setups and then allow the market to find me the entry, right? And tell me like, hey, here's your now time to go ahead and get in this position. So I changed that reason behind the trade at that point. And I think that's one of the harder ones to overcome. And I think once you've kind of hit each of those few stages along the way, then and you have sufficient enough capital and savings and reserves and all of the things in order to make it to where you don't necessarily have to pull a check from your trading account for X amount of months, right? Or you have a spouse that works in that situation, um, then I think that would be the move. So, because there is going to be, once you do go full time, there's going to be things that come up that you never experienced prior to going full time, right? From that emotional standpoint, right? There's going to be that, oh, I want to go take a trip to wherever, or we want to go do this thing. And uh,
Yeah.
do, do I press this trade because of this? You know what I mean? So, and all those things will come up. Like everybody that's ever gone full time will experience new things. You just have to be experienced enough to know how to handle yourself from all of these prior things and challenges that the markets put you through.
Gotcha.
So I think that's a little different for every person, right? As to what their comfort level is, and then their understanding of themselves and how quickly they can, correct and learn from. So kind of a long-winded answer, but I think I don't think there's a short answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a big jump. Like, it's a totally different feeling. Most people, like for you, like your schedule's pretty demanding, right? Which I think it's super cool that you've been able to do everything you've done over the last like 6 months while going to school and all of the other activities and things like that, just of daily life. Um, but like that shifts once you go full time, is because the only thing you really have is market opens at 9:30, closes at 4, right? Like that's the only schedule, so to speak, in what you have. And certain people will, yes, stick to their, you know, morning routines and their 8 a.m. sitting at the desk. Some people will slowly start to push that to 8:45, and not be as prepared for the market when it opens, right? Because there's no clock in, there's no clock out, there's no, you're late type situations,
Yeah.
when it comes to that. And which is, again, another personal kind of hurdle that at the end of the day, it all comes down to discipline. Would be the if I could sum it up to a short answer, one word, it would be discipline in all facets of being a full-time trader.
I got you. I got you.
So, what else you got? Fire it up.
I think one more question is just like basically like what is the mindset you come in like every morning? So like let's say you have school, right? And like you're you're running kind of late, but then the market opens. Cause I know you're the type of person to preach, always have a game plan. So it's just like when you don't have a game plan, like do you ever like just like be like, whoops, I just took a trade, but it worked out. But okay, this is something that I will never do again.
Um, so yes and no. Like I've been there where you come in and it's a day that you planned on taking off, or uh, but for some reason plans change. You end up at the desk, um, and you end up taking some stupid trades, right? Because you weren't prepared.
Yeah.
Or you had to leave early. For me, that's like one of the bad ones, is because like whenever I have something past a certain or before a certain point, like if it's past 11:30, 12 o'clock in like later on in my day, like I don't feel any pressure from that. But if like I have to physically leave the desk by like 10:30, 10:45, and it kind of cuts my time window down, even though I would normally be done or close to done by then anyway. Um, that like makes me feel rushed, right? And I don't perform as well in that situation. And I know that, right? So I know that from past experiences of trying to press something to make something,
Yeah.
and then oops, you're down 3, 4, 5, 10 grand, and then now you still got to go to this doctor's
You gotta
appointment or
do that.
dentist appointment or whatever it is, and you're like sitting there and they're drilling on your teeth or cleaning your teeth, and you're like, I'm like, shit, if I'd only waited 3 minutes on that trade, because you got nothing else, you can't talk to nobody. There's
Yeah,
nothing you
it's
can
just
do
like
right there. You're stuck in your own head. It's miserable. So
yeah,
I've learned not to do that, or to reduce position size or things coming into that, to where if I do take something and it ends up being a loss because I tried to press something a little early, it's like 25% of normal size, right? So it's not, yes, it's a loss on the day, but it's not really at the same time. You know what I mean?
the same.
Uh, so again, adding a couple little rules and things like that in place, little fail safes for yourself, um, which all comes from like knowing how you are, you know?
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, and that's the only way you can learn that is unfortunately through trial and error on some of those things. Um, you know, and then you have to apply them and stay disciplined in order to, to see them through.
definitely, definitely. I
Because
think that's one of the toughest thing I realized about it was just discipline. And like think I think Julian asked me this the other day. It's just like he was having the same issue, but he was just like he knows everything he has to do, but it was just more of the discipline wise and how much he's risking. So it was just like I gave him some tips. I was just like focus on different names that can help grow your account. Like switch from the Netflix and go to like Shop or AMD. Like start working small first, and then like when your account get a certain size and you're able to say, okay, I can at least accept this risk, then you'll be all set
yeah,
because he knows his stuff. So we was talking about that too.
yeah, the levels are solid. The buy setups and sell setups are solid for him. Um, his thing is all, which for most people, again, is going to be all in their head.
Yeah,
It's 90% psychology. Um, it, so I was thinking about this the other day, actually, and it really, how I like to think in analogies and give those
yeah,
out. So I was thinking about this one the other day, and it's like the difference between trading and watching like my son grow up is like us as traders, we do the same thing over and over and over and over again. The same bad habit, right? We do that same thing over and over and over again, right? Whether that's forcing trades too early, whether that's holding losers a little bit too long, whether that's trying to jump in a little bit early because we don't want to miss the move. Any of those things like that some people have. Some people are like very, very good at one of those, which is a bad thing. Don't be good at the bad habits. Um, but some people are really, really good at those one things. And the reason being is that because there's a reward, right? There's something to gain from that potential entry, right? I.e.,
yeah,
money. But when we're a kid, it's like, hey, don't touch that stove. It's hot. Or
yeah.
hey, the oven's open. It's hot. Don't touch it, right? You do it one time and you quickly learn
You
like,
got to
hey,
do it.
I don't want to do that again, right? Because that pain is there. There's no reward for me to go touch a hot stove anymore. And that's the difference of when you focus on the material outcome of money in your trade. That's that reward that you're focusing on. And as opposed to actually the chart and what it's telling you and what you should be doing and focused on the pain, i.e., keeping your risk and emotions and things like that in check. That's the only real difference, which stems from just focusing on the money and not the process. Right. And it really is that simple of an analogy from a kid's standpoint. You know what I mean? It's the
Yeah.
same as touching the hot stove. Am I crazy? Am I
Nah,
crazy? Or
you're
does
good. You're
it
spot on. Spot on. Spot on.
work?
So,
Well, do we wrap it up on that one?
I don't know. I don't know.
What do you got?
Yeah, I got one more last question, right? So when it comes to sizing up, right? So like, when do you know, like, okay, this is an aggressive entry? I need to take a step back and wait for at least a confirmation, such as a higher high, higher low, right? With a pullback that triggers, and instead of taking a aggressive entry like straight off the open.
So, well, that's two things. Like, it's different, right? Sizing up and taking an aggressive entry, right? Those are two different things.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So, from the standpoint of an aggressive entry, right, is you already know the setups in which you like right now, right? You've defined them, you know what they look like, you've seen them 100 times. Keep doing the same exact thing,
gotcha.
right? Like if it's working, then keep doing it. And you'll see, like you'll find those a little bit more of aggressive entries, which for you were probably on the 2 minute chart, which is why you no longer
Yeah,
have the 2 minute chart to look at. Which is fine. Which is like that's totally fine. If it's working, continue to do it. But from that, I would say to if you want to size up, I would do it doing the same exact thing that you're doing now that's working, as opposed to trying to find a more aggressive entry. You know what I mean? Like you already have this thing that's working, this exact specific setup. Now, once you've proven that and you've proven yourself, it's like, okay, can I increase my risk from this, $150 to $170 worth of capital I'm putting out? Because my account has grown, can I now move that to 270 to $300 or 220 to 250, right? Whatever range you can step up into, um, that still allows you to look at the chart with no emotional ties, right? To whereas if you lost that sum of money, it's like, okay, cool, I can get up and I can walk away and I can still have a smile on my face the rest of the day, right?
Yeah.
If losing $1,000 is not going to put a smile on your face, then that's probably too much risk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, so, because if you do, the problem becomes is if it is too big, then you carry that with you into the next day, right? Because the whole rest of your day is impacted, and you get up and you kick the dog, and you're mad at the girlfriend, and that never turns out well. And then it just your day kind of spirals from there, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be comfortable enough losing however much money up until the point where you can't smile on the day, and that's essentially it. And eventually you're going to go just a touch too big and you're going to find out what that number isn't for you before
Yeah.
you find out what it actually is.
I got you.
But
That was it. That was it.
you like that one?
Yeah, that was it. That was the one. That was the
All
one.
right. Good stuff. Well, I appreciate your time and coming on, and we'll get this posted up. If you guys have any questions, if you're still watching to the end of this YouTube video, I definitely appreciate it. Um, Make sure to click that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't. I will drop Christian's Instagram in the description below. So if you guys have any questions for him, feel free to reach out, give him a follow. And as always, leave some comments below if you guys have any questions, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.